Good morning, America. This is Irene Armendariz Jackson in El Paso, Texas, and I'm here to say, Kamala, you came a little too late. We have had this crisis for years. We need solutions. We don't need you parading in the Border Patrol station or acting like you care. Americans matter. America matters. God bless you, America.
Kamala Harris gets utterly humiliated in Texas as she finally visits the southern border. Well, kinda. In this video, we're going to take a look at the disaster of a day that Harris had in her visit to El Paso. We're going to take a look at precisely why she had to visit the border. And we're going to see how this was but the latest in a string of humiliations to beset one of the most cringeworthy vice presidents in our lifetime. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Stevie with you. Great to be with you as always. We are your daily fake news antidote. As each and every day we provide patriotic analysis to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. But now, before we do anything, I want to give a huge shout out to our video editor, Paul Teves. Paul faithfully edits our 2 videos each and every day. And Paul's wife just had their very first baby yesterday. So let's all give Paul and his growing family our best wishes in the comments below. God bless you, Paul. And finally, I'm sure you all know, but athletes, celebrities, high performers, they're all going keto. This diet is being praised around the world because it's widely effective at boosting metabolism, elevating energy, and enhancing mental focus. But for many, it's an extremely difficult diet to follow, cutting out all those carbs, getting rid of all that bread. And so if you want the benefits of elevated ketone levels, but without actually having to do the difficult parts of the keto diet, you're going to want Keto Elevate. I use it myself. Tastes great, curbs my appetite for hours. Now, if you click on that link below, you can get your very first shipment of Keto Elevate on its way to you right now to a whopping 51% off the regular price. So don't wait. Click on that link below and reap the rewards that Keto Elevate can bring to your life today. Okay, let's dive right in here. What a pathetic day for one of the most pathetic public figures on the planet. Kamala Harris, after 90 plus days of supposedly being in charge of the southern border crisis, has finally visited the site over which she supposedly has authority. Well, kinda. She kinda visited it. As Fox News is reporting, Harris instead visited El Paso rather than the harder hit areas such as McAllen and sites along the Rio Grande Valley. But it's no secret why Harris refused to visit McAllen. We did a video last week that you definitely want to check out, reporting on the earthquake election that happened in McAllen. Now, keep in mind, McAllen is 85% Latino. It voted for Biden by 20 points, but just a couple of weeks back, they voted in their very first conservative Republican since 1997. They've had it with Biden and Harris and this ridiculous open borders fiasco. So we can understand why Harris would want to avoid a place like McAllen. But if Harris thought she was going to get a hero's welcome in El Paso, she was in for a rude awakening. Protesters flooded her arrival, excoriating her for waiting so long to visit the border and the Biden administration's utter incompetence at the border. Harris saw signs such as Trump won and F Biden and how many little girls need to be raped before the administration declares the border crisis an actual crisis, and that the vice president could hear their screams. Another sign said the spirit of America starts at the border. Now, make no mistake, this is why Kamala hasn't visited the border thus far. They knew it was going to be an optics disaster. They knew it. They knew that such a visit in Texas, mind you, would be a total embarrassment, but they had no choice at this point. We did a video just the other day on Biden's sinking poll numbers, and they're sinking particularly in relation to how horrified people are at his pathetic bumbling of the border. A recent ABC Washington Post poll, where only 26% of the poll respondents were Republicans, as compared to 31% for Democrats, 36% for independents, still found that 57% of those polled disapproved of Biden's handling of the border. 54% said the border situation was, quote, currently a crisis, while 42% that said it was a serious problem. So nearly 60% disapprove of Biden's handling of the border, and an astonishing 96% believe it was either a crisis or a very, very serious problem. According to Rasmussen, 2/3 of likely voters blame Biden for the border chaos. Rasmussen is also reporting that 73%, 3 in 4 likely voters, are concerned about the flood of migrants at the U.S.-Mexico border. 48% very concerned. 51% of likely voters oppose giving them any form of amnesty. And then, to add insult to injury, President Trump announced that he's going to be visiting the border personally next week. And so they had to, there was just no way they could let this issue continue to politically crush them. And you can tell it was all starting to affect Kamala, right? She actually had the gall to snap at a Fox News reporter who asked her the obvious as to why it took her so long to visit the border. And she snapped and said, "It's not my first trip. It's not my first trip. I've been to the border many times, lots of times." Now, of course, she's talking about when she was a senator, which, of course, was part of the criticism. She had no problem finding time in her schedule to visit the border when Trump was president, but couldn't find the time suddenly as vice president, overseeing one of the worst border crises in our nation's history. Again, even the far-left activists disguised as journalists like Lester Holt was recognizing how embarrassing her failure to show up at the border was. Holt pushed her on that very issue, and she got all defensive. She's like, "Well, I haven't visited Europe either. I don't understand your question." Isn't it interesting how she answered Holt differently than the Fox News reporter? I don't understand it. Well, she understands it. She just couldn't believe that the mainstream Marxist media turned on her like that. She was completely unprepared. The interviewer broke the cardinal rule of our permanent political class. Thou shalt never make a Democrat look bad in an interview. And boy, did Kamala look bad. And she did it again on Univision. She showed the same level of hostility and defensiveness when asked why she hadn't visited the border. And that's because they know this is a political disaster for them. The Democrats are losing elections over this, and they know it's a no-win situation for them. Now, of course, this is not the first time Kamala was humiliated on a political trip. You'll definitely want to check out my video on Harris getting totally humiliated in Guatemala on her trip there. It was just too good. From the moment her airplane touched down in Guatemala City, protesters plagued Harris's visit with signs reading, "Trump won," right? And "Kamala, go home." Others read, "Kamala, mind your own business." Another read, "Guatemala is pro-life, pro-child," referencing the fact that Harris has no biological children of her own. And frankly, you have to watch the video. The trip just went downhill from there. You'll definitely, the video will make your day on that. But in terms of the takeaway from her trip to the southern border, there is none. There is none. This was nothing more than an attempt to silence the mainstream media on the drip-drip reporting on each passing day she refused to visit the border. And as is becoming more and more apparent, she's just too thin-skinned to face this kind of response. Harris is and always has been a very, very weak political candidate. Remember how pathetic she was in the Democratic primaries? Actually, that's a misleading question, isn't it? Because she didn't do anything in any primary. And that's because her campaign was so bad. She was so pathetic, she had to drop out before the very first primary. Her internal polls showed she would do even worse than Biden did. Let that hit you. Kamala Harris, worshipped and revered by the cultists in the mainstream Marxist media, is a political candidate who's actually weaker than Biden. She's an empty suit, and this entire trip was an empty affair. It was kabuki theater. And Harris and Biden only ended up looking more incompetent as a result. Now, before you go, you'll definitely want to check out my latest video. I just uploaded it on an amazing thing that just happened that promises to change the internet forever. In fact, we asked the question, is this the end of Google? You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.